Another example is somebody in the world of conservative commentary, and this is a person in the radio talk world. And I had written a piece in the New York Times about when Donald Trump had fired James Comey, and I was critical of him for having done that. And this person who I've had a relationship with was again very angry. When you sometimes have email exchanges, you're sort of in the second or third round, you can just feel the temperature going up. And I could see that was happening. I think he was starting to make some sort of personal accusations or personal attacks against me. So I knew this was not going in a particularly good direction. And so I emailed him back, and I said, so let me tell you why I think we're talking past each other. Let me explain how I think you're viewing things, and let me explain how I am and why we're disconnecting. And so I wrote a couple of paragraphs, which was a good faith effort on my part to say, here's how I think you're viewing it. And I gave voice to it, which is, you're putting a premium on loyalty. You feel like Donald Trump is being waylaid every day by the mainstream media, that his success is critical to the success of the country that you love, and that you view yourself, I don't think I used this analogy, but this was the upshot of it, sort of the offensive line protecting the quarterback. That's your job. And for you, that kind of loyalty and staying true to the leader of your party and your movement when he's under attack, that's what you prize. You view me as a sort of traitor to that cause, somebody who knew better and is now attacking it. And I should know better, because the people who are trying to defeat Trump are liberals and progressives, and that would hurt the causes. I said, but from my perspective, what I'm putting a premium on is what I perceive to be intellectual integrity, which is, if Barack Obama or Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton did the same thing as Donald Trump did, would I say the same thing in response to it? Or would I allow party affiliation or ideology to shape how I interpret events and how I call the balls and the strikes? And I said, for me, I've got to call out Donald Trump, because he's an affront to a lot of things I believe in. And the fact that he's a Republican doesn't change that. And so that, for me, is what's driving it. So we're placing a value on two different, we're placing importance on two different sets of values. So he wrote me back and he said, I've read your note 2 or 3 times, and it was like a light bulb going on. And he said, it was interesting. He said, I'm an advocate. I'm not interested in intellectual honesty. I view my role as being an advocate. But we connected. And so then fast forward, this was after, I think, the Parkland shooting in Florida, when these high school students were killed. He was on the radio talking about this. And I was driving to DC on something called the George Washington Memorial Parkway, and was listening to a show. And he said something to his listeners, because there was a student who was leading an effort at gun control. And he said, look, go right ahead and disagree with the position that this student is arguing for. But he said, but just don't go after the students. He said, I have socks that are as old as some of these students. So just don't personally go after them, especially in the wake of the trauma that had happened. So when I got to the office, I emailed him and I said, I happen to be listening to your show, and I just want to say I appreciated how you were pushing back against your listeners. It's fine to disagree with them on policy, but don't go after them personally. And he wrote me back and he said, thanks for doing that. And he said, I just want you to know that voice that you heard on the radio wasn't just my voice, it was yours too. And that was an example to me, because over the years, he and I have become friends. I've found out about his life, some of the losses in his life. We've had discussions about faith and about a lot of other things. And so a friendship developed. And so that kind of human relationship, those kind of human connections are ultimately the things that I think if we're going to have these sort of conversations, if we're going to depolarize the church, if the divisions and acrimony are going to go down, it's going to take that. And that's what, after all, we're called to be as, as followers of Jesus. I just think we have to lean into each other's lives, into each other's stories more than we tend to. Ask questions rather than mount soapboxes, even though I've done that a lot in our interview. It's not always the right thing to do. I think that's it. I just don't see, given the conditions that we're in now, the moment that exists, and how human beings are wired. I don't think, you're not going to outshout somebody, and you're not going to even out argue them. It doesn't mean that there isn't a place and a role for persuasion. I believe in persuasion. I have my entire life. I'm a writer. But I don't think that just marshaling facts and arguments is enough. And certainly for pastors in churches, I think it's just essential to try and create a community where the things that knit you together are the deepest and most profound things in human life. And that's not politics.